Iwo Jima, we can do this.
You might check the box or uncheck the box where it says original ratio under the video settings.
It says video rendering method auto.
Trump is against that entire.
Okay.
Use hardware acceleration.
And against their carbon taxes. That's why
mirror my video, stop my video when joining. I don't know.
Oh yeah, uncheck. Make sure that one's unchecked.
Okay, you don't want it mirrored. Okay.
Yeah, you don't see one that says original ratio on it.
It doesn't say that. It just says stop my video.
Right, and I've been proven right again.
Hide,
it's our own government's assessments, for heaven's sake.
Okay, so it's not giving options for that.
No. I normally use StreamYard, you see.
You do what?
I normally use StreamYard.
And
so
he said very
we don't
loudly,
have
it's a
this
small,
stretch.
you've been in the West Wing.
Oh yeah, you're not using StreamYard. Okay, we'll try to work with it as much as we can to
Sorry
make sure
about
it
that,
doesn't look too
appreciate
stretched. It's okay.
I believe into the Oval. So when one of President Trump's closest advisors, who is vocally advocating for us to not go to war with Iran and for us to rethink at least our relationship with the Israelis, and then he's suddenly publicly assassinated, and we're not allowed to ask any questions about that.
That's why the head of the Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, quit this week, trying to get Trump to pay attention and change course. Instead, they've been attacking him as a traitor and saying he's a leaker with no evidence.
I can say this. He said very strongly that Iran is not a threat. Iran's been a threat for 47 years, and there's not a country in the world that doesn't agree with me on that. So I take this guy, Joe Kent, who lost twice for Congress, pretty badly and tough, and was devastated, and I know that he lost his wife. So instead of letting him live out his life, I brilliantly have my people call him and offer him a job in security, essentially, in the White House. And what does he do? He goes out and he says that Iran is not a threat to get publicity. Now, he probably signed up with CNN.
Joe Kent, the former director of the United States National Counterterror Center, this is from Semaphore, he just resigned. He's now under FBI investigation for allegedly leaking classified information. And the investigation predates his departure.
These opening remarks with one other fake news, and that is that Israel somehow dragged the U.S. into a conflict with Iran. Does anyone really think that someone can tell President Trump what to do? Come on. President Trump always makes his decisions on what he thinks is good for America, and may I add, I think what is also good for future generations.
All the anti-Semites to all the isolationists, I don't believe. Forget it. I'm not with you. I'm with Israel. I will be with Israel to our dying day.
It's the Israel lobby that has the main muscle to be pushing this. It's a foreign government. It's illegal as hell. I don't care if it's China, the UK, the EU involved in our politics, and they are too, and it's wrong. We're standing up against that. We're standing up against what Israel's doing. It's wrong, folks. It's unconstitutional, it's illegal, and it's treasonous for anybody.
Just to let you know, guys, we're going to be live in 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, we're going to be live with these guys, just to let you know. I think 6 minutes past the hour, they said to me. So we should be live then. We've got a big lineup of interviews today. After that, we've got a lot of interviews. We've got Trita Parsi. We've got Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar. We've got many, many others coming for interviews. It's going to be fire. I'll give you more information on that as soon as I'm after this interview.
You get an additional 20% off at checkout on top of that. Now, I had to convince Bailey to do this. They were a little skeptical because they like to give you good deals, but not this good because it's lost leader when you use the app. But because we have an 80+% reorder rate on things like Ultraviolet Blue, it's actually working because you get it, you love it, and you keep ordering it. So these are great products. I want to induce you to try them. You know our information's hardcore. Try the products. It's just as hardcore. 1776 worldwide. We will crush the 1984 global system. God bless you all.
You're watching The American Journal with Rex Jones and Tim Tompkins. Watch it live right now at band.video.
We are powering through your morning. We are honoring it. We are honored that you chose to spend this time with us here on the American Journal. Now, almost as always, we have another phenomenal guest for you. Tim, tell them a little bit about Sulaiman. Let's introduce him. Sulaiman, welcome to the show.
Yeah, Sulaiman is a great friend of mine now. He hosts a lot of spaces. He's one of those people that is currently on the ball.
Thank you. Yeah.
News, everything. He's very active. I mean, this guy is on spaces like 12 hours a day. He's covering everything. Since the beginning of the conflict, and he's very knowledgeable. He has degrees. He has a lot of knowledge to back it up. So, Sulaiman, let's get you on here because the people need to understand some things about what's going on, but we want to cover about you specifically as well. Sulaiman, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
You put on the jacket for us. We're all professionals.
Yeah,
we
gotta go professional
now.
Exactly, we gotta go professional. We're in the big leagues now.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we wanted to have you on. We had you on the gray area. We're like, this was a fantastic conversation.
Yes,
and we were like, all right, we need to make this happen. So I'm glad we could. Sulaiman, let's just talk a little bit about your background because not a lot of people know you on the InfoWars, and a lot of people want to know, what got you into all these things, what's your background, just a high-level overview so that people understand.
Yeah, sure. So my background is obviously I got a degree in law and then a conversion into mathematics, became a mathematics teacher. Then I've got an MA in philosophy, and then I was doing my PhD in philosophy when I became quite viral on X. And the thing with becoming viral on X is it becomes very difficult to finish anything related to academia because you get a lot of complaints. And so I thought, look, what's the best thing to do is just pause that, make sure that I'm, continue my career in terms of from the media perspective, the journalistic perspective, and then I can go back and complete my PhD. But yeah, that's currently my academic background. In terms of, obviously I've studied as well in a religious setting as well. So I have a decent background of the understanding of Islamic religion, whether it's legalistic theory or theology and philosophy. So that's kind of my background. Obviously, I'm from a socially deprived area, so I've done a bit of everything when it comes to before social media and before my kind of academic career.
Right. I think you do such excellent coverage on the region because of that and many other factors. Of course, you're just very well studied in really all forms of geopolitics. Doing the breaking news updates, I believe you were doing them during the 12-day war as well, correct?
Yeah, we were 24/7 during the 12-day war. We were 24/7 now as well, up until I believe a few days ago, maybe the first 22 days, and then we've kind of reduced it to like 15, 16 hours.
Yeah, I gotta ask you, Sulaiman, how do you do it?
Yeah.
Like Rex and I will come on here, we'll do 3-4 hours, we'll debrief afterwards. We might have a show in the afternoon as we do Gray Area, but we're like gassed. And I wake up, Sulaiman's on. I go to sleep, Sulaiman's on. Yeah. I'm like, this guy is a killer.
The sky is blue,
now.
The birds are chirping. Sulaiman is on X giving breaking updates.
So how do you manage to do that?
You gotta just work hard, put the effort in. I've got Beatrix who helps me with the spaces. I've got my entire team of people who come on and give really good analysis. So I'm privileged in the sense of we've got a great team of people who come on the spaces and really contribute. If I had to talk for 15 hours, I think I'd be struggling.
Yeah. We definitely hear that. What are you seeing right now? Breaking news updates you want to give people really just over the past week of coverage that y'all been doing, the live reporting. What's going on in the Gulf right now?
Well, a huge amount of things are happening in the Gulf. We can deal with each thing at a time. So the first thing is, obviously, Iran has been hitting the Gulf quite hard. Initially, they were hitting the US embassies and the military bases. And the reason was because those countries were colluding with the United States of America and Israel to destroy Iran. They tried to make it look like they weren't involved, but we know that they were indeed involved. They were allowing these countries to use their air base. We know now that they were, without a doubt, allowing them to use their military bases. In addition to that, they were giving them key intel. And that's one aspect of what they were doing. In addition to that, and separate to that, what we know is that there's highly likely going to be, and I'm sure we're going to cover this in detail, a ground invasion into Iran. And these countries are complicit in the ground invasion. If you look at where the ground invasion is, and I'm sure we're going to go into detail into that, but depending on what the locale of the ground invasion is, the stationing area could be UAE, Kuwait, or Saudi Arabia. So these countries are complicit. They have been helping the United States of America and Israel bomb Iran, and they need to be held accountable. And so when I see these countries being hit by missiles and drones, I'll be honest with you, it gives me great pleasure, not only because of their complicity in that, but as you guys know, when it comes to the UAE, I view them as Muslim Zionists, and they have been helping not only the United States of America and Israel, but if you look at what they've done in the Sudan, if you look at what they've done in the Yemen, if you look at what they've done in terms of perpetuating hatred against Muslims in Europe and in the West, generally speaking, if you look at their treatment of the underclass, I just see them as almost a sister to Israel. So
I have a question for you, Sulaiman, because you were talking about the soldiers earlier.
Yes.
And I'm talking to Rex about this. I'm like, there's no way this doesn't become a bloodbath, because Iran knows this has been happening. Everybody's been talking about
been
this
prepping for
weeks,
2 decades.
right? So, you know, let's say we use the UAE and in these regions as staging grounds. I don't see how like thousands of Americans don't get slaughtered if we even try to land 1 foot on that island. I mean, they probably have landmines and stuff on the island. Everything. Are the Iranians prepped as much as the rest of the world is thinking?
yeah, there's no doubt about it. And one can only surmise that, yeah, I agree with you, there's going to be a bloodbath. The question mark becomes, what are they going to do and what the aims are going to be? So, I mean, look, there's a few possibilities on what they can try and take. They can either try and take Karg Island. That's one possibility. The other possibility is they could take the 3 smaller islands, which UAE lays claim to, which is Abu Musa, the Greater Tomb, and the smaller tomb, the lesser tomb. That's one option. The other option is, those are the 2 options. The other option is, the third option is they could take the 3 Hormuz islands, which is Hormuz, Levarak, and the third island, Kezem, I believe it is. So they could take one of the 3 Hormuz islands, or the other possibility is, and I'm starting to think that this is slightly going to become more and more of a possibility, is a ground invasion into Iran as well. So all of those things are possible.
Yeah, I want to ask you about this because my dad had a caller on his show yesterday. My dad's very anti-war. He's very against all the operations going on right now. And this caller calls in and he says, Alex, you're wrong. I'm a Marine, and they would never sacrifice the Marines. My dad used the example of kind of like a pawn sacrifice to open the engagement. I think that's exactly what we're seeing here. We have this kind of sacrificial array of forces, and it's just like Vietnam. It's just like Iraq. We have to do this one thing. We have to secure this one base, this one area. They get slaughtered. Oh, we got to do full ground invasion. We're at total war. What do you see the likelihood of just a mass expansion? And like in a month, we're looking at a totally different conflict.
I think what you're saying is extremely accurate, and I have been thinking about this a lot. And I am moving more towards that position that actually this may be done intentionally in order to sacrifice American lives, in order to then galvanize the American public. You know, you can show these American soldiers in caskets, their families grieving, and then you can basically manufacture consent into a ground invasion. That's a possibility. Or the other possibility is this is all a bait and switch, and actually they're going to do the ground invasion immediately through, and I've got some ideas about where they're going to try and do that. But yeah, I do believe that both of those things are possible. It's either going to be a operation into one of those islands, you have a large massacre of people, and then you manufacture consent for ground invasion, or it's already going to be, and actually all of this is a bait and switch, and they're going to do the ground invasion straight away.
But Sulaiman, you know, I look at this. We've played these situations out over Iraq, Afghanistan. We see the ground invasions don't work. I'm more leaning towards the islands scenarios that you've drawn out. But you know, even if we take those islands, how do we even know that that's going to ensure that the strait actually opens? Because they still can launch from the mainland. And, you know, you're talking about these Marines being on this island, getting bombarded. They're probably going to be having drones launched at them every single day. And that doesn't stop the IRGC from launching its boats and having rocket launchers still launched at oil tankers. So how does taking those islands even lead to the opening?
So I don't think it will. I think it's going to fail. But I guess you're asking what's the kind of motive, or what's Trump thinking? So
yeah,
I can explain.
Like what's the goal?
Yeah. So I believe when it comes, and obviously the goal is different for each one of them. So for Karg Island, the goal would be this from Trump's perspective. He thinks that he can take control of the island. It could take a day or two to take control of the island. Their hope is that basically Iran's military is dispersed within the island. They're not aware about which entry point there's going to be. By the way, I disagree with this, but I'm just telling you what they're thinking is going to be. And they'll be able to get the soldiers in. They'll get the Marines in through the sea, through the land, through the amphibious unit. You take control of the area. Then you basically use it as a staging ground. You hope, and the thing is, what you've done is you've got Iran's oil infrastructure within there. Like 95% of their refinery goes through there. Now they can realign that and they would lose about 50%, but 50% loss is huge. And so what you do is you take control over the oil infrastructure, the oil refineries. And then what you do is you basically, you give Iran a very difficult decision. Do they bomb them or do they destroy their own oil infrastructure? If they destroy their own oil infrastructure, that will set them back decades. And so the hope is, or their hope is, that Iran doesn't do that. And then you've got that as leverage. And then you say, look, we'll give your oil back if you give us back the Strait of Hormuz.
Wow. So you're involved in a lot of these breaking news updates and on-the-ground conversations with people. We're talking about the Strait of Hormuz. The whole conversation is about it. It's shut down, but there's another potential closure happening very soon. The Yemeni people, the Houthi people, they've entered the conflict, they say, as well as Hezbollah. Potentially talk about the impact of a Red Sea shutdown. What's going on there?
Yeah, the Houthis have entered the war. At the moment, their strikes are limited. They've sent a number of missiles to Israel over the last few days. They've also said that any ships that are from the US and Israel will be stopped in the Red Sea. So that's already happening. But they haven't done a total shutdown. If they were to do a complete shutdown, that would have a major impact on the global financial market. You would see oil prices go well above 150, possibly even to 200s. It would be uncontrollable. It would
How likely is that? How likely is that scenario, that eventuality in your mind? Just a quick question.
Okay, so my sources on the ground tell me, obviously it's exclusive, then I haven't told my audiences, but my sources on the ground tell me that actually, if the United States of America does boots on the ground, they will shut the Red Sea.
Escalation ladder. Got to keep going up and on both sides, and they have escalation dominance because they have more they can do than we have to do.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, and here's the thing. I think everybody around the world is looking at this and is like, okay, we're getting two different stories about whether there's going to be a peace deal, there's not going to be a peace deal. You and I talked about it on your Spaces, Sulaiman. I thought the 15-point peace plan was very generous for the things that they were offering or Trump was offering. And a couple of the points I didn't quite agree with, Iran getting, extra capacity to control the strait and having all the U.S. military withdrawn. So is there a way for them to come in the middle, or is it just like we're past the point?
Are they negotiating?
Yeah.
Are they? What's going on?
Yeah, I don't believe they're negotiating. What's happening is you've got Pakistan, Turkey, and I believe Egypt, who are almost acting as conduits. So what they're doing is taking the American information and passing it on to the Iranians. The Iranians are very clear. They do not want an agreement. They do not agree with those demands, even though, as per what you just said, those 15 demands are very much Iran friendly. If you remember, before this war, one day before this war, Iran agreed to 0% enrichment. This was confirmed by the Omani mediators. This agreement allows for up to 60% enrichment as long as it's used for civilian purposes and defense purposes. So this is a very much Iran-friendly deal. It's also something that Iran would be amiable to. There is a couple of things in there that I think that they would need to add, such as possibly they're saying reparations, but largely the rest of it is very amiable to Iran. And what it shows is what we've been saying, that Iran is winning this war. No way would America have given this 15-point plan, which is so Iran-friendly, if they weren't losing the war. And this is what we're seeing right now. Right. There's no way out.
Why would they deny it? Why would Iran say no to it? That was my thing. I'm like, if it's so friendly, is it because they know they're winning? They're like, we want more? Is that what's going on here?
Well, I think the reason is because they know, and Trump said it yesterday. So I said this before, and Trump confirmed it, that deal, although it looks brilliant, it looks like an amazing deal, the problem you have is, which Trump said yesterday, the Americans and the Israelis will just be back again in a year or two time. And right now, you've got them exactly where you want them. They've made so many errors in this war that they've got themselves in a situation where they're very weak when it comes to Iran. Next time, Iran may not be as lucky because America, I know the Israelis always make this mistake. They'll make the same mistake all the time. But the American military is actually very proficient. They won't make the same mistakes again. And so the issue is, Trump said yesterday, he said, well, when we're gonna finish this, we're gonna leave this war, and then another president may come and try and bomb Iran for their nuclear facilities. So what they're saying is, I'm gonna leave this job undone, and then someone else is gonna come and bomb. And this is the biggest problem Iran has. This is why Iran should never agree to a deal. And actually, I say worse than that. Iran has been way too soft. Iran, in my view, needs to go harder against the Gulf countries. In my view, they need to give them 3 days notice and say, you need to basically remove all American military bases. You need to make sure America is not involved in your country. If you don't, in 3 days, we're going to destroy your entire infrastructure, your desalination plants, and you'd give that warning to the UAE first. And I believe that they'll bend the knee. But if they don't, you take out them, and then you do it to each one of the Gulf countries one at a time. I believe that Iran, in my view, has been a bit too soft in this war. They've done really well, but I think that you need to be cutthroat, and I think they've not been as cutthroat enough.
We look at something else that's gone on, and it's been very interesting to me to see the mad dash, not just of Trump, because everything Trump does has to be done now. We declare victory now. The war is over now. I've already won. But we look at Netanyahu, okay? And you can say America's involved in this war, heavily involved in this conflict. It's a big drain on us. Israel is literally right there. Okay, so they're not thousands of miles away. They're right there. And while all this is going on, while their cities are being bombed, while they're in conflict in this war with Iran involved with us, they're invading Lebanon. They've displaced 1 million plus people. There are buildings exploding everywhere. There's rubble everywhere. I believe they've lost 12 tanks fighting against Hezbollah. First off, how do you view the ever-expansive nature of this war? As in, like, how many more of these regions will it just swallow up? Will it expand to places like Syria and Lebanon as it already has? And do you think that they have any control over that or where it goes?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer that this is part of Israel's expansionist agenda. They want to expand throughout the region. They want to take control of the entire region. But in terms of what you mentioned, in terms of Lebanon, they are losing really badly. And this is what we predicted before this war. We predicted this in 2006. We predicted this in 2024. We predicted this now. There was no way they could defeat Hezbollah. They don't know. Hezbollah knows the terrain really well. They know the landscape really well. They've hit over 130 Merkava tanks. I believe they've taken out more than 80 Merkava tanks. In one of the days, they even took out almost 20. So they are struggling really badly. They've had a huge loss of life. They've not been able to penetrate in any areas. So what they did yesterday was, which is what you're showing right now, which is yesterday they start bombing specifically those areas in South Lebanon because they've not been able to succeed in the ground invasion. What do they go back to? They go back to just bombing from the air, hoping that this causes dispersion of the troops. But that won't do it because actually what they've not learned again from previous wars, and this is because of the part of the military analysis, is Israel's continue to always bomb areas before they go in. But what happens when you bomb areas? It causes a huge amount of rubble. When you basically cause a lot of rubble, your tanks can't get through, and then you require bulldozers to go in to remove and disperse the rubble, and that just means more tanks are going to be taken out. They're so silly.
I heard Lawrence Wilkerson talk about it, the great colonel. Maybe he's been on your program. Heard him talk about it, I believe, with Larry Johnson. He says, yeah, they don't even maintain proper following distance with the tanks, and they roll in, they all get slaughtered. It's because they're not used to actually having to fight a professional military battle. Used to killing little kids.
Didn't they have to call reservists up too?
425,000.
Yeah, so not all of those people are combat ready. If I quite understand the situation.
You're so right about that. Making those errors, but worse than that. The US military did an analysis of the 2006 war, and the US military literally said to them, look, these are the mistakes you're making. You're bombing areas and then trying to bring tanks in, and then that's how Hezbollah is able to take you out. They never learned in the 2024 war. They got destroyed. They had to go back, and they're doing the exact same thing, the exact same mistake again. So it's not only a lack of military capability in terms of the soldiers, but it's a lack of military understanding and nuance, arrogance, and not even looking at the analysis that's even given to them by their US partners.
Okay, so one thing that I want to touch upon, because you were talking about it just before we talked about Lebanon, was about Iran taking a harder stance and going harder in terms of like the demands.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to push back just a little bit, because we like to have healthy debate here.
Yeah.
And I don't see a scenario in which the United States ever withdraws their troops without that region forcefully, right? We would rather maintain our ego to be the military power within that region and have, you know, the Gulf states struck, and it would just accelerate the war to where the Gulf states will attack back, and Iran has just as much to lose. And their government is kind of in a shaky situation because there is a lot of instability within the population right now, regardless of who's stirring the pot and things like that. So I'm just trying to understand, like, how does pushing harder do any good for Iran at that point?
Okay,
because I don't think that's the solution.
Excellent question. So I had the same view as you, I'd say up until a few days ago, because I've been really thinking and reflecting on this. And the way Iran has conducted the war is exactly the same manner I would conduct the war. The problem is, I think about it and I think, would I be the best leader in this wartime situation? And I think not, because I'm too soft. You need someone who's cutthroat. You need someone who's brutal. When it comes to the GCC countries, they can't do anything more than they're already doing. They don't have the military capability. They don't have the military personnel. Who are they going to get to fight for them? Some Pakistanis, like, nobody's going to fight for them. They can't do any more than they're already doing. This needs to be a warning to them to say, look, you need to stop or your country will be obliterated. In terms of, and it needs to be a demand. In terms of the American military base has been removed from the country, I'm in agreement with you. I actually hold this position, which is, as much as many people within the resistance want that, I can't see a scenario where that would ever happen, because these Gulf states are so underneath the shoes of the United States of America and Israel. They would never ever want the US to be removed. They live in fear. They don't have the social and the psychological ability to think that they can fend for themselves. They're always relying on that. Never mind the fact that the US and Mossad are intrinsically linked within the entire apparatus of those countries. Those kings, those rulers, MBS, MBZ, know that if they were to ever get out of line, the United States of America and Israel would assassinate them and replace them immediately. So I agree with you. I don't think the bases will be removed. Right. I'm saying, if I was Iran, I would not be conducting the manner they do. What they do right now is they'll bomb Iran's energy infrastructure. They'll find 1 or 2 countries and then they'll hit them, or 3 countries. They'll hit them plus Israel. That's just not enough, because think about it. They're getting hit more. So in my view, it's very simple.
Really quick, we're coming up here on a break. Join us here for the next 10 to 15 minutes. We love you, Sulaiman. Thank you so much for coming on the program. Powerful information on the American Journal. You're going to want to stay with us. Go to realalexjones.com if you want phenomenal vitamins or minerals or supplements.
Alrighty, sir. A 4-minute break here.
Thank you. So guys, 4-minute break. How do you think it's going? We're on InfoWars. We're giving the knowledge. We're giving the information. Chat, how's it going? How's it going, chat? Appreciate that, Andrew. Appreciate that. Let's bring Hassan up. Guys, make sure you retweet the space, reshare the space. Unfortunately, as you guys know, they've removed us from the blue bar. They don't want this space to be known by everyone. So we're relying on you guys to retweet the space, reshare it, quote tweet it, let your friends and family know about it. How can they do that? How can they remove us from the blue bar though? It's really annoying. Inflammation doesn't stand a chance. Get yours today at thealexjonesstore.com.
I have been in a 28-year marathon battle with the globalist. I have come from nowhere to the very heights of politics, not just in America.
I think it's like the majority of people can't see it. I think there may be a few. It might be US only actually, but remember, most of my audience is US. Because Marco Rubio told said to Musk that they were going to make these moves, so this is what they're doing.
We are now entering the final mile of the marathon, and that's why today it's more important than ever to realize how important you've been in this fight and to continue in the efforts you've been carrying out and to intensify them. God bless you all. I salute you. I thank you, and I beg you to intensify what you're doing now, because we are over the target and history is happening. The fight is my fight. It's your fight. It's our fight. God bless you all.
one of the most important things to me.
Yeah, I like the videos. Yeah.
Going into broadcasting, hey, why can't I see Sulaiman's face in the blue bar overhead? It says blue bar is covered or overlapping. The zoom scales up, UI buzz, scroll overflow.
It's so good for your body.
I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to find it out because it just disappeared completely, Sulaiman.
Yeah, this is what they've done. Just reading some of the comments. Thank you for your kind comments. Someone said, I stayed up for this. Others said, we stayed up till 2:30 a.m. Appreciate your support. Appreciate your love.
That is how amazing it is. Secure your ultramethylene blue now.
Thanks, guys. Got a lot of love on the YouTube. Appreciate it. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to say.
There's the camera. Blast them with full power right there. Yeah! I have some very exciting news. Optimal Human is hands down the best green superfood, super nutrient concentrate I've ever had. The folks at Bigley have had this out for years, and it's their star product, and it became a bestseller very quickly because people...
So yeah, guys, retweet the space, reshare the space, let everybody know we're live. Let's try and get as many people in the space as possible. Let's try and get many people in YouTube as possible. I've got a new plan for the YouTube as well, guys. I was thinking, but I'll talk to you guys about it in a bit.
It's got everything in it. And again, these are all concentrated, and it's got a bunch of stuff for healthy energy in it too. So
yeah, the plan was I was thinking about doing a second channel, and then we stream just the interviews on the second channel, but then the spaces continue to be streamed on this channel, and then we can put the interview videos on the second channel as well. What do you guys think?
Is it awesome? It is a game changer. If you haven't gotten it, you are really missing out at thealexstore.com. And so it never sells out. Be sure to become a subscriber and get special discounts when you do that.
InfoWars.com is tomorrow.
Yeah, make me the mayor of Tehran. Make me the viceroy of Europe, guys. Leave Dubai now.
We are cruising through that morning. We're almost at the Alex Jones Show, which starts 11 a.m. It goes all the way to 3 p.m. We're reining in your morning here with Sulaiman, but I want to let you all know right now, we're going to do another 10 minutes with him. You want to call into the show? Now's your chance. 1-877-789-2539. That's the number to call. Again, that's 1-877-789-2539. Sulaiman, we want to let you continue, finish up that last point you were making. Tim's got one more question for you. I've got one more question for you. Again, thank you so much. Really appreciate having you on the show.
Nah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so the point was just simply that I don't think they'd ever leave, but the issue is you need to be cutthroat. You need to be brutal. This is your existence on the line. And I think that with Iran, because they're very lovely people, they're very soft people, they just don't want to escalate too much all the time. It's always they're relying on the US and Israel to escalate, and then they will respond. So like, for example, they're waiting for the ground invasion and then they will respond. I think that you just simply in this war just can't do that. Look, public sentiment may go against you if you do something like this, but public sentiment isn't going to save your country. Public sentiment didn't save the Palestinians in Gaza. Public sentiment didn't save the hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza who were taken out. It didn't basically save the millions of Palestinians who were injured. Even now, they've stolen Palestine from the Palestinians through this Gaza plan, which again, public sentiment didn't save it. So public sentiment, in my view, let's forget about it. You need to do what you need to do to win this war. And that is accelerating in the manner I said.
And that's what we're talking about right now. We're not talking about, as Trump calls it, a little excursion or a detour. We're talking about full war. This is the reality of full war. It is brutal. It is death. War is ultimately rotting corpses, and nobody wants that. But someone started this fight, and it wasn't Iran. Tim, your question.
So I'm going to ask the question in just a second. I just want to address the last thing that you were talking about, public sentiment. Israel and America would love for there to be a scenario that plays out where, Iran backed itself into a corner to where it destabilizes its own country. Like I was saying, if, let's say Iran does take action against the salinization plants and oil infrastructure, the Saudis and the Americans and the Israelis are going to go and attack that exact same civilian infrastructure. And then that's perfect opportunity for there to be regime change. And that kind of becomes the self-fulfilling prophecy of what they want. So it's a little bit of a tricky situation. I get it, and I see your perspective. I agree with on certain points, and there's some other things that I'm like, maybe there is a better solution.
But we do diversity of thought.
We do diversity of thoughts, and we can healthily talk about these things. But one thing I wanted to ask you about was, your information. You are on top of the ball on a lot of these issues. There's tons of sources that
something breaks,
Yeah, something breaks, like how, and you don't have, I'm not expecting you to like tell the guy who's your sources and how are you getting your information? Like how are you so on top of things?
Yeah, I'm on, so there's a few ways of disseminating information. Obviously, first of all, being in a large number of Telegram groups. The second thing is, I've been doing this for a while, so I do have sources on the ground, whether it's in Lebanon, whether it's in Iran, whether it's in Yemen, whether it's in actually the United States of America. And so we have built this kind of network of people who are able to give us this information before it happens. So for example, I knew this war was going to happen before it happened. I knew about the 12-day war the day before. So this kind of, and although I was told about it, I was not too sure at that time, but in the end, that source ended up being right. So it's just, as doing this for a long time, you end up building your sources. And so you're aware of the information. There's a lot of people on the ground who then disseminate that information. Also in the Gulf as well, I have a number of sources. So we're quite blessed in that regard that over time, we've been given a lot of responsibility and trust, and we're able to do that. And in terms of your other point, in terms of regime change, I think the opposite. I think if Iran shows, right now, the entirety of Iran is united with Iran. And the reason is because they see this as an existential threat. They see this as foreign invaders trying to destroy their own country. And then you saw what happened with those schoolgirls. I think if Iran shows weakness, if Iran doesn't go harder, I think the opposite may occur. That's when there is a chance that there could be a loss of trust, where they think that, look, you've taken us into this war, and yet you're not winning this war. That's when there is a possibility that there could be that, but I don't think it'll happen now.
You touch on something super important, and we got to pay our respects, and we got to give them honor. We got to ultimately acknowledge what the U.S. is really, what the empire did. We killed 180 schoolgirls and their teachers. Okay, we burned them alive. What does the word Holocaust mean? Okay, everyone wants to talk about the Holocaust all the time. Holocaust means death by fire. That's what we did to those little girls and their teachers. It was a sickening double tap, a terrorist attack, where after the initial strike, after they're gathering in the safe room, holding each other, hugging each other, the second tomahawk comes in. What does our president say? What does the imperial leader say? Well, it was them. It was them. Other nations have tomahawks. You got a newsflash.
Casualty of war.
Got Japan, France, Germany, the UK, the only other nations that have tomahawks. We did it clearly. Our government lied about it. And here's the thing. If you're listening to us right now, we're breaking down what's happening. You're like, I disagree. I still trust Trump. I think he's got goodwill. He doesn't want people to die. That's been proven to be false on the first day of the war. This is evil. We aid and abet in genocide and all these horrible conflicts. It just has to stop now. And I think even if we're on different ideological lines, even if we believe in different belief systems, all these things, we got to realize that we're all humans. We live on this planet together. We're all created by God. We have to honor each other. People aren't disposable units to be burned and thrown away in some sort of conflict for greater war or energy or power resources. Sulaiman, I've developed these opinions over the years, really based off of the Ukraine war and watching what's been going on there. And I've been getting phenomenal coverage from people like you, but also people like Dialogue Works, like Nima, also people like Judge Napolitano and Glenn Deason. I got to say, just a little bit of a selfish ask here for Gray Area, for American Journal. We really want to talk to Larry Johnson or Lawrence Wilkerson. We love those dudes. I've heard him on your space before. What do you think about minds like that? Because we have people that are 60, 70, 80 years old who have lived through 21st century, 20th century American empire and can speak to it. What do you think about voices like that and why they're valuable?
They're extremely important, because what people don't realize is that when there's someone hears maybe you talking, or Larry Johnson talking, or Tim talking, or as you said, Lawrence Wilkinson, Daniel Davis, these guys are extremely pro-America. They just know that this is negative even for the United States of America. So let's take Daniel Davis as an example. He's someone who was going to be part of the Trump administration. He was already accepted. He was already selected. And he had the handshake agreement. Just 12 hours before he was going to be anointed, or they were going to present it to the public. Obviously, Laura Loomer found out about it and made sure the nomination was pulled. But this is someone who was going to be part of the Trump administration and is very pro-America. Whenever I'm on the show, he's always like, our boys, this is not going to be good for us. And he's looking at it very much from a pro-American stance. And despite having that stance, he's saying, look, this war is going to be negative. A lot of American soldiers are going to be lost. We're going to lose this war because of all the things he said. And so I think those voices are extremely important, because we look at it from an anti-war perspective. We don't want war. We want peace in the world. Some people are like, actually, we're not anti-war. We're just anti this war because we're going to lose, because we're not going to achieve any of the goals. And this war isn't for us, but it's for Israel. So I think these different stances are very important for that reason.
I'm sorry to interrupt, both moral and practical, and this is the point I always make about people in the current administration. Why wouldn't you resign and run in 2028 and be the hero? Because you look at it, it's just like these things aren't going to work the way you think they're going to work. Even if we are evil empire, we want to conquer everybody and declare victory, you can't win this war, so why would you do it, Tim?
Well, what it is, it's a sunk cost fallacy is what's happening.
Yes.
Exactly.
They're already in too deep. From the first decision, from the first 100 days, Trump has kind of, gone back on a lot of the things that he promised, what we voted on specifically.
Yes.
And then we've seen decision after decision after decision. And after you get to a certain point, you've already invested so much energy into signaling to the people that you're really trying to appeal to that you just got to go all in. And we've silently sunk into, again, this isn't like me trying to spew Israeli propaganda or all those types of things. They do have a lot of influence on the United States government. And so now we're kind of like, well, we're not just going to cut our relations with Israel. So we might as well go all the way, because we thought taking the regime out on that first day was going to do the job.
24, 48 hours, it's going to be over. Don't worry about it.
We don't actually have as much control as we think. So, you know what? Gulf states were like, you know what? You started this, you better finish it.
Right.
And that's where we're at, the sunk cost fallacy. I think that's what's going on.
I think this has been a phenomenal interview. We want to have you on again. We're pressed for time. Thank you so much, Sulaiman. Where do they find you?
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on. You can find me on X. Obviously, I've got quite a big X channel. That's Sheikh Sulaiman. But my biggest focus is YouTube at the moment. With YouTube, we're doing a lot of interviews with military experts, geopolitical experts, experts from a wide range of sources. And then we also provide breaking news on that. And my YouTube is Sulaiman Ahmed X, which is Sulaiman Ahmed X. So you can see my name there, but with the X at the end. That is my YouTube, so you can check it out there.
Awesome. Sulaiman, very much so a pleasure to have you on.
Yes.
We really appreciate you. We're going to do this again. We're going to try to have you on the gray area again as well. We're just going to continue this relationship because this is a phenomenal episode. We always have great conversations, so we really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate both of you as well. Thank you so much for standing against this war and standing for humanity. We really do appreciate you guys.
It's called being pro-humanity, man, and we're all on that team. We're all anti-war. Thank you so much, Sulaiman. I want to let y'all know right now, got to let you know, got to plug, because we're on the network, we're on the air. There's a new rolling sale up to 40% off NAD+, Shillogy caps, and...
All right, thank you so much. Good luck on the rest of your spaces.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Blend, you got to want to...
All right, have a great day.
Thank you. Right, guys, that was the interview with InfoWars. Let's get back into the conversation on the space. Lots to speak about, guys. We do need you guys to retweet the space. We need you guys to reshare the space. I'm gonna just put the space back on for you guys on the YouTube. But yeah, that is, I hope you enjoyed the interview. I saw the comments, everyone loved it.
I just want to say really quickly, because I know you can't multitask, so while you
because you didn't see the grey suit, and apologies for that.
Where's the grey suit? What's going on?
Yeah,
I'm
man.
back in the I've gone in the big leagues now. I can afford another suit. I got another suit, boys.
Oh, congratulations. What is it, black?
You didn't see the grey suit?
Navy blue.
These guys are so funny on YouTube. When he was in America, they were like, because they got so used to seeing that for like, I don't know, 2 months, that grey suit. One of them was like, now you know if Sully comes in another suit that the Zio's got him. He's on the payroll. If he comes in another suit, you know that the Zio's got him. I was like, that's hilarious.
They got me, boys. They got me.
He's
Okay.
got. He's being paid by Dubai now.
Never.
He's on the UAE payroll.
Yeah, with Chung and Mario. But just a quick one though, guys. So Simon, yesterday you said about the guys. Let me know if it's back. Yeah, brilliant. You said about the what was it again? Yeah, yesterday you said about the the blue thing not working, the blue bar.
Yeah, you're not. I can't see.
Yeah, they've removed us from the blue bar. And it seems like this has happened because of the instructions of Marco Rubio. Remember yesterday an article came out where they said that the Marco Rubio has directed a number of embassies in different places to start propaganda against anyone who is against this war with Iran. And also Elon Musk has been told to community know everybody's posts that relay any information that isn't pro-America. And in addition to that, we were told that X and X spaces would be targeted, and it looks like our space has been removed from the purple bar for the vast majority of users, especially if you're not using a VPN. So this is an example of the information war that they've basically made sure that no one can see our spaces.
Yeah, well, we knew it was coming. We were always prepared for this day, and we know what we're walking into. So anyone that's been on this space knew we got to use our freedom of speech, because eventually there'll be no freedom of reach. But we all understand that we're building our social credit score. They decided that the censorship model wasn't an appropriate model anymore. So they said, get everyone to speak on X, which, if you haven't figured out, is integrated into the back end of Israeli KYC and surveillance technology. And then we will give you speak. We want to know everything about you. We want to know exactly what you're saying. And then we can try and modify your speech by suppressing reach. And so those that are cocks, or those that don't believe in a genuine cause, will say, hold on, my bar's being taken away. Now I'm not getting the reach. I used to get 1 million impressions. Now I've only got a couple of thousand impressions. What do I need to do? All right, why don't I adjust my speech so that I get reach? And then maybe they'll monetize me, and maybe they'll boost me as well. So we always knew that this is, and anyone that's been on this, we knew that this is where it's going. It is algorithmic censorship in order to control your mind through artificial intelligence rather than thinking on your own, so that you rely on Grok XAI for, is this true? Isn't this true? Is this an AI video? Isn't this an AI video? And then eventually, in order to get your message out there, you need to modify your behavior until eventually they have a community of NPCs that they boost, and they have all the data on those that are suppressed for their speech. So this is exactly where we knew this was going, but we have to play the game with the tools. We're going to be on decentralized platforms eventually. We're going to be running our own LLMs. We're going to be having our own, self-custody money, self-custody identity. And so while we're going through this and we're helping, disseminate these wars, we also need to understand the personal sovereign things that we need to do to protect ourselves as well. So it's important to understand these things. And you see it in real time there, that now if you say the wrong thing, you no longer, no one knows that you've got a space, and we all have to rely upon each other. So how do we fight back? Is community. We built the community, and everybody needs to do their part to share this. And they're not going to give us a free ride. So we need to create reach on our own.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Simon, just check your messages, if that's okay, your WhatsApp. Let's go to Hassan. Hassan.
Sulaiman, can you just 1 second, sorry, can you just toggle the YouTube to the live chat, please?
I did that ages ago, blood. I did that ages ago.
They're saying it's not. But I just want to add something to what Simon said, and then we go to Brother Hassan. Do you remember last week they announced on X that they're going to limit your reach to local news based on where you are? And we spoke about this, and I said, how is that even going to work? Because, for example, Suleiman's audience is America, and they actually said that they wanted people to stop talking outsiders. This sounds like freaking that host who puts USA host in his title. They want outsiders to stop talking about American politics. And so you can only talk about your local stuff based on where you are. So, for example, Suleiman could only talk about Tommy Robinson or Keir Starmer. Simon, you could only talk about whatever's happening between the 20 people that live on the Isle of Man. And, Doc could only talk about whatever's happening in, as he calls it, California, or Commie California. Like, literally, this is what they were trying to do. And I just thought it doesn't work. And what he got was, because I was monitoring what happened, I remember announcing it that night, and we knew it was censorship because people across the world raised their voices for the genocide, against it. People across the world are impacted by this Iran war, and they're against it. And they want to suppress and silence and censor those voices. So I was monitoring what happened. And what happened was that night through to the next day, there was literally uproar. That Nikita guy who announced it, people were underneath there commenting, saying, look, don't ban me, but I'm against this because of X, Y, Z. And then he was banning them, right? He was just blocking them, literally, and taking their profile down. Eventually, Elon jumped in because you had people from Germany who have pages on X to do with herbal medicine or homeopathic advice, completely unrelated to politics. All of those people were up in arms. People in Japan who've got health forums, and people in America who've got project management sites on X, right? They were up in arms saying, well, hang on a minute. The guys in Germany were like, our audience is like mainly in the Western world. Most of my customers come from Australia. If I'm only going to talk in German to Germans about homeopathy, what's the point of me being on this platform? You called it a global town square. How is this even going to work? So he had a lot of backlash. And then I saw a comment, just one comment from Elon saying, we won't implement this yet. We're going to just take it off the table for now. Something like that. We're going to take it off the table for a little while or something. Or we're going to give this some more thought. Something like that. He didn't rule it out completely, but it's not happening. And I forgot to I forgot to update us on that, on the space. I was going to update the next day, but I completely forgot. And I think what they've done is, because they couldn't do that, they've done this. Because let's face it, your tweets, they can actually suppress anyway. They've suppressed Suleiman's. If you just go to like an Ian Miles Chong tweet and look at the number of views he gets to the number of likes and retweets he gets, you'll see that he is boosted. If you go to Suleiman's profile and look at one of his tweets, and look at the number of shares he gets, and number of like retweets he gets, and the number of comments he gets, and then how they suppress it, you'll be able to see the distinction. And he's been suppressed since. So they've always been able to suppress the tweets. It's the spaces that they have a problem with. And that's why they're now doing this on spaces. So this purple bar, I can see it because I'm in the UK and Suleiman's in the UK. Only people in the UK are going to be able to see it. Anybody outside of the UK is not going to be able to see it because they don't want Suleiman's voice to go to Americans or to America or to the Western world or to anybody else outside in the world. This is crazy that they're doing this. Absolutely crazy. Global town square not.
What if you brought in a co-host was from another country who wasn't suppressed? Like, say I came up as a co-host, would that change anything as far as the bar goes? Not that I'm volunteering for that anyway. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think, Doc, do you know what? Generally, I think it might do, but I think Suleiman's been on their target anyway, right? Because he hasn't got his blue tick back. He's on their banned list. So I think it doesn't matter who co-hosts with him. He's the target here. Remember when his space in the beginning of the war, this space started trending in the For You section, completely just organically. Sulaiman Ahmed wins rave reviews for his unbiased coverage of the Iran war. He was on a flight he didn't even know. His team members sent me that, and I was like, wow, this is like, wow. And then within a few hours, or whenever it was, I can't remember the exact timeline, they were like, oh my God, his account's just been completely deboosted. Like literally there's zero traction. And I was running the space with Andrew, because Sulaiman was on the flight. And while we were running the space, we couldn't even see one person on the space. It was just blank white screen. We couldn't take co-host. Adam and I ran a whole space for 12 hours straight after that without even being able to take co-host. So it was massive, under massive attack. And then the following day, Christy Nome was asked that, what do you have to say about ex-influencers who are dividing the opinion on the Iran war? That they're against it and they're dividing opinion. And literally it was in the same 24 hour time frame, all of this was going on. And she gave some, typical bimbo response like, oh, X doesn't matter, it's not real life. What President Trump says is real life, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. But this all happened. And I knew that this was what Simon's saying, that we knew this was coming. And I think it's just going to get worse, actually, Doc, to be honest with you.
It's a little strange because I've seen the opposite with my algorithm. Since I've joined these spaces for the last 30 days, my follower count is up 10%. It's like the shadow ban has been lifted off my account. I don't know if that's going to continue. This morning there's no action whatsoever, but
Doc, it might be because you're on these spaces.
Well, I've always been on these spaces.
Yeah, we've got a
and
lot.
my account has been slammed for the last 2 years.
I get it.
I
But
stated
during the war, there's a lot of people that come in and out of these spaces. So, like, if you're on these spaces, you do end up creating like a big following. Specifically during war.
Facts. I want to also say to like.
And just 1 second, Brother Murphy. I want to say that there are people from the UK on the YouTube chat who are saying they cannot see your space, Sulaiman, or the purple bar at all. So even people in the UK can't. And for the person saying you can see Sulaiman's blue check, it's because you're logged in via the web. When you log in via the web, you can see it. Come in via the app, it's not there. They won't give it back to him. And that's one way of making sure he's deboosted. He's also not monetized because he doesn't have a blue check. So that was taken away New Year's Eve 2 years ago now. And I remember when they took it away, Casey always makes me laugh because she was like, oh, Elon thought he'd be smart and take it away on New Year's Eve because everyone would be busy. But she didn't know we were going to have the biggest party on Spaces. I think we did a space that night with, 20,000 people, because you and a few others were taken away all at the same time for speaking against the H-1B visas. And so last night, somebody on our space was talking about, oh, we don't want the illegals coming in. We don't mind the legals. All your H-1Bs are legal and they are going to occupy America. So don't let a piece of paper distinguish between the two. But that's a separate subject. But they took his blue check away 2 years ago on New Year's Eve, along with a few others. And they never gave it back. Apart from one person who did get it back. And the only person who got it back was Laura Loomer. Nobody else got it back. So, yeah, sorry. Back to you guys.
Yeah, guys, we've got lots of things going on today. We've got what have we got? We've got interview with Simon Dixon. We've got interview with Trita Parsi. We've got an interview with Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar. We've got Trump's speech. We've got one more thing, Trump's speech, and we've got Ryan Dawson coming on later on as well. So lots happening. Still trying to sort the studio out, guys. What do you guys think of the new studio as well? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. I'm reading them. What do you guys think about the new studio? It's a bit sad I haven't got my books anymore. It seems like I'm not as smart anymore. And we haven't got the other studio with the black things. So what do you guys think? I got a bit of Japanese Mr. Miyagi thing going on.
Like I'm still trying to figure out what happened to the gray suit, but we understand. You gotta do what you gotta do, Sully.
It's painful. It's painful to let the suit. It's not gone.